This is Coke Zero Sugar. With real Coca-Cola taste and zero sugar. Listen closely. Hear those bubbles? That's the sound of delicious real Coca-Cola taste and zero sugar. Ice cold. Ah. Coke Zero Sugar. Real Coca-Cola taste. Zero sugar.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
Hello, this is Kathy, and this is The Cinema, the podcast where my husband Dave and I record our walk home from the movies. But I'm not with Dave today. I am with returning guest, host of Sentimental Garbage podcast, best-selling author and writer, creator and executive producer of the upcoming TV series The Rachel Incident, Caroline O'Donoghue. Welcome back.
Hi, Kathy. It's nice to be here walking.
Walking in person. So Caroline's been on the podcast before, but virtually. So you're getting a cinema now. You get to walk around.
I know. It's a very honoured position to be in. And I also haven't done a podcast in months. So part of me is wondering, can I still do it? Have they changed it?
Luckily, you don't have to host this one.
Yeah, it's nice.
We're here to talk about Wuthering Heights. There's a lot to talk about with this film, huh?
And actually, I find the amount that there is to talk about borderline depressing.
Yeah.
I've actually lost faith in humanity watching the discourse unfold about this as well. And I'm at a busy season in life, and so I would preferably every time I look at my phone to be a little treat, or I'm going to treat myself to a 10-minute scroll because I earned it today. I worked really hard. And then it's just one fucking brain rot take after another about this movie, and people being so violently angry about things that are just not worth their anger or their time. And I just feel like there's a whole population of people who have been waking up every day for 2 months to be mad at Emerald Fennell, and I find that pathetic and sad.
I find it's a really interesting thing as a 40-year-old woman on Instagram how much of this, right, has been served. And I think there's a couple of things here, right?
Yeah.
There's book purists, of which I am not. I've read the book once. I don't really remember it. You know it more than me, I think. Do you?
Yeah, I've read it twice. I studied it at secondary school for Leaving Cert, and then a few years after that I studied it at university as well. So it's been a long time since I picked it up, but I feel like I remember it reasonably well.
Okay, good. So one of us knows the book.
Yeah.
I personally do not care that she's changed the book. She's put quotation marks around it, which I think the quotation marks have been ignored by the critics because she said this is her interpretation.
Which, by the way, I know people have been very anti the I put quotation marks around it because this is my interpretation thing. I find that baller. I find that great.
Mm-hmm.
I know people are really, really hate it, but what I say to these people is that they would not have been able for Romeo plus Juliet by Baz Luhrmann. Do you know what I mean? Surely at a certain point when a piece of culture falls into the vernacular of modern myth and society, and we all know what we mean when we say Wuthering Heights, we all know what we mean when we say Romeo and Juliet, that we have to allow a level of creative freedom when that kind of thing occurs. And if you won't allow that, it is frankly fascism.
It is also the fifth adaptation of this, right? One of the things I want to say is that
there are plenty of adaptations of this.
Yeah, there's loads. Now, people have been complaining about two things that I think are worth touching on.
Yeah.
So the first being Margot Robbie's age. I believe she's 35 in this, playing, I don't know, a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Now, my mother, who watched the film, said she thought Margot Robbie was ridiculous playing the role. I have a different theory, which is if I'm 35, which I'm not, I'm producing a film and I want to be in it.
35? Yeah. Margot Robbie.
So fuck it, right?
I'm 35.
So could you play a 17-year-old?
I love when I'm the same age as someone.
I just think fair play to her, because 17-year-olds have been stealing work from actresses over the age of 30 for a long time. So
true.
Why not let her steal their work? So I think the age thing makes me laugh. I think fair play to her. I also do think it's pretty ludicrous to have a 35-year-old playing a teenager, but I'm here for it.
I think it's funny. And how old is Jacob Elordi? He's young enough, isn't he?
I think he's 30-ish.
Okay. I mean, again, we haven't watched this film yet, but the internet has fed me so many frames of this film that I feel like I've seen it already. But there's a camp mindset that's been powering this film. You can tell even by the promo images, by the poster, she is quite clearly going for a kind of a sort of a Mills and Booney kind of aesthetic. It is an oversized, outsized, kind of faintly ridiculous adaptation, and she seems very self-aware of that. Yeah. And I think it's almost like the kind of hagsploitation of it all. Like it feels like, you know, it's intentionally a little bit ridiculous. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they'll play it totally sincerely with Margot.
Yeah, I don't know. The other thing to quickly touch on, and this is of all the criticism, this is the one I agree with. Yeah. Casting a white man to play Heathcliff, who is notoriously dark-skinned. I do find it
notoriously.
odd. Yeah. Like, why? Like, I get that Jacob Elordi's hot, loved him in Frankenstein. Yeah. I do think this was a misstep. What do you think?
So obviously this is one of the biggest talking points, and I mean obviously it's a completely valid critique, and from what I recall from the book, Heathcliff's ethnicity is kind of ambiguous. There's kind of words that he's like Black Irish, which is kind of a phrase that was used to describe very kind of like dark Irish people kind of thing back in the day. There's kind of they invoke kind of Romany gypsy, they invoke his skin a lot. And like my reading of that when I was studying it, and definitely the way we were encouraged to study it, was that he was of like unclear ethnic origin, and therefore that was part of what was powering the disdain that the other characters felt for him. Like he has, like, if it's the Victorian era, it's an incredibly conservative time. Anyone who has any kind of unclear parentage is treated as though that they are scum, essentially. And the ethnic ambiguity was a layer on top of that again. And so that's all part of it. And so there is a kind of verisimilitude that you can do with that. And I think, like, yeah, there's a world where, perhaps she should have.
And to the people who, a lot of whom are complaining online, talking about the fact that Emerald Fennell comes from a privileged background, this I think is a symptom of the wider fact that there's so few female directors out there, that when we get a female movie, like, I don't know why, but like women particularly like tear them down. And like there is a version of Wuthering Heights, right, made in 2011 by Andrea Arnold, who is a working class director. Yeah. It had a black Heathcliff. Yes. There are other adaptations of this film. Like, everything is not riding on this adaptation. There's been like a musical.
Ray Fiennes has played him before, right? Ray Fiennes and Juliette Binoche played him in like the late 90s, early 2000s.
I can't remember. There's definitely been a musical where Cliff Richard played him. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of adaptations. This does not need to ride on Emerald Fennell's back. Like, personally, I'm a huge fan of Promising Young Woman and Saltburn. I really like her movies. I know some people don't. But like, I just think the level of videos that have been made about her are just clickbait and people trying to get views. Not all of them. Some of them are in really good faith around the race stuff, I think. Yeah. But I think a lot of them are in bad faith.
This is what bothers me the most, is the bad faith of it all. Because, and what annoys me the most about the intensity of this discussion is that it forces you to become like either someone who hates Emerald Fennell or someone who defends her to the end of the earth. And I feel neither way about her. How I feel about Emerald Fennell is that she's an interesting director who sometimes makes great choices and sometimes makes poor choices. And that I make that exact same observation about the majority of directors working today.
Yeah, exactly.
What I mean? And like this need for there to be a kind of a takedown on her. To honestly, it really reminds me of 15 years ago when the world was like besotted with piling on Lena Dunham the whole time. Now, Lena Dunham, is that a filmmaker with privileged connections to the art world? Yes, which is the same as Emerald Fennell. Did she also
make girls, which is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, but did she also have racial blind spots in her work that were worth investigating and critiquing? Yeah. Yes, absolutely. But there's a world where like critique becomes sport that I find vile.
Yeah, and that's what's happened here. Like, it is people trying to garner clicks online, albeit some of it's in good faith. Right, we need to go to see this film. Yeah. It's about to start. What we'll do on the way out is we won't talk about, I think, all these kind of outside of the film issues. We'll just come back to review it as a film and say what we think about it, yeah?
Okay. Yeah. I'm excited.
Right, see you then. Bye.
Catherine.
Heathcliff.
Why did you leave me?
Why did you betray your own heart?
Where is the obstacle?
You.
whatever our souls are made of is mine are the same.
I will not stand for that fiend. I will not have you near her.
Right, we're out. We've seen Wuthering Heights, in quotation marks. If it's your first time at the cinema, we will not spoil the film until we get to Spoiler Street, and then we'll spoil it. And I think we'll spoil the book on Spoiler Street as well. All right, Caroline, what are your top line thoughts on Wuthering Heights?
My top line thoughts are, I was quite bored. I was quite bored, and particularly I think there were so many interesting things in it. Thought it was beautifully shot. There were some shots in it that I thought like, wow, she really has an incredible eye. There were some great bits from Martin Clunes, great bits from Alison Oliver. Like I thought there was amazing performances in it. Sadly, those performances were not shared by the 2 stars. And do you know what my main problem with it is that I have so much to say on this, that you can't make a movie about like the great love story that never was or whatever if the 2 leads spend the entire film talking about how their great love is a great love. They talked about nothing except for their own connection, which we're supposed to believe is immense. And it made me think, because I remember watching an interview with Emerald Fennell where she said she wanted it to be this generation's Titanic. And it made me think of like Rose and Jack, and like how we spend so much time with them at the beginning of that movie talking about like their hopes and dreams and how they want to see the world and the way they want to see the world, and his drawings and her family and all this shit. And I was like, these 2 people don't talk about anything, and love stories to me are built on dialogue and dynamics and not on just looking at each other, saying I love you and fingering yourself on a moor. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know, it's so funny because I was also bored for large periods. However, I'm not typically a viewer of like period drama. It's not my genre, and like I wasn't particularly into the book. Like, it's just not really any of it for me. But what I wanted to say before we came in and I forgot is what I love about this is the drive to get like bums on seats in cinemas, and like that it's an event movie, and that's why I wanted to see it.
Yeah, no, precisely. I mean, we were just in a sold-out screening in the Stella in Rathmines, and like watching all the girlies going in, all hyped. Like it's always exciting to see people hyped to see a movie, and like you got to hand it to Margot Robbie and Lucky Chap. She knows how to do that. She did it for I, Tonya. She did it for Barbie. She's done it for this. Like Margot Robbie is a lot more than the sum of her parts. I think. Something about Margot Robbie I find interesting as well. Clearly, there's a taste issue between me and Margot, which is that I think something that Margot really enjoys is kind of ironic, arched eyebrow looks to the camera. Do you know what I mean? We had that in Barbie, and like even when she did like The Big Short, kind of like her kind of like this kind of very arch way of being like, I'm me and you're you and we both know kind of thing. I thought that her performance was very informed by that kind of archness, to the point where she felt like she was doing this kind of campish performance almost. He felt like he was doing a kind of very naturalistic performance, and the 2 performance styles just didn't gel. Yeah,
it's interesting. I do agree with that. And I know that I said beforehand I love that she cast her in a movie herself in a movie about a 17-year-old. Yeah. But when the film came on and they skipped from being young to being adults, I did think, but wait, like if this much time has passed, they'd have either fucked by now or they wouldn't have.
Right. The way you're gesturing with the microphone, you're like, over to you.
Yeah, this is the way we record on the Cinemile is one handheld mic, which is very odd for people who aren't used to it.
Because it makes it you look like a sort of like a news reporter for a channel, but we're talking about Margot Robbie. But yeah, I think that was the big issue that you just said. Like, by now they either would have fucked or they wouldn't have. Like, which is, and I think actually this is both a fault of the book and any attempt to adapt the book, which is the reason something like Pride and Prejudice works, or like something like Vanity Fair works, why those works are timeless and are easy to adapt and have been done again and again and again, is because you get these relationships, these love stories where there's a class differential or a reason they can't be together, but you have them inside a society where you're very familiar with what the stakes of that society are, who's up, who's down, who's moving, what happens. But I think with Wuthering Heights, they're in such a hermetically sealed bubble of like, there's 2 gaffs. One's the rich gaff and one's the poor gaff. And like the entire time where they were having this extramarital affair, I was just like, well, she doesn't really have a family. He doesn't have a family. They could just kind of bounce. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I know that would be rare in the Victorian era, but it still happened. People did just run out on their marriages. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there was like brood of children that we were concerned about, and like it is interesting on the piece we were talking about with like the race swapping, I guess, of Heathcliff.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been saying how much that matters. But what I found is that in this film, Heathcliff is poorer, and that served enough purpose for them to not be together from the beginning.
Yeah. And the whole thing, which is like taken verbatim from the book, which is, Nellie letting Heathcliff over here, to marry Heathcliff would be to degrade me. And this is the big thing in the middle of their relationship that cleaves them apart. Mm-hmm. And it's like, guys, you live in this like highly mannered Victorian society. Like, you live in this society, you're not aliens. Like, you know that this is true. Like, why is this massive home truth?
Yeah.
This is why you're not together already. Like, I just didn't buy it. Like, the stakes just felt really flat.
One of the things I wanted to talk about was the marketing of this film, because I feel like the marketing of the film has let the film down, because I was expecting something so sexy, but like, I don't watch period drama. I've seen Bridgerton. This felt so PG-13.
It was just the most perverse parts of it were just them and goo. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, he's fingering an egg yolk. He thinks that's her pussy. Like, or fucking, she's putting her... Actually, one of my favourite shots of the whole movie was her sticking her finger into that gelatine fish.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was cool.
It's very gooey. One of my friends said to me it's a very moist movie, and I'm like, yeah, it's a very gooey movie. But like, is that sexy? And like, at all times, they're fully clothed. It's just... I think the marketing missold it.
Right, and also, do you know what made me think as well? Are you familiar with the movie Singing in the Rain?
Yes.
Do you know how like the kind of central problem in that for the stars is like, oh, they're silent movie stars, and now they're switching to sound movies, and no one's writing dialogue for them. So at one point, one of the male stars is just kissing someone's hand and going, "I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you."
And that happened in this film.
That was literally this movie. It's like, did she just forget to write dialogue for them? I love you, I love you, I love you. Like, it was mad how much they just said, "I love you."
The whole thing was like, I have to say, I still enjoyed myself at this film. Like, I enjoyed. I think what we have to say from a visual perspective is she knows how to make a sumptuous looking film. Like, the shots were wonderful. So I liked looking at it. I was a bit bored.
Yeah. I
love Saltburn, and I really love Promising Young Woman. So I think this is probably my least favourite of her movies, but I still think she's a really good filmmaker.
Yeah, same. I think what she is concerned with artistically is obviously aesthetics, which is fine, right? Like, it's a visual art form. Yeah. But I think she's so obsessed with in all of her films, of the notion of power and sex and sadism. And like, clearly the thing she's very excited by is the idea that like, not just Kathy and Heathcliff, but in every relationship dynamic in this film, there's an element of sadism and of punishing people and of wanting to be punished and, controlling people. And like, you see that in Saltburn, you see that in Promising Young Women. That's clearly a topic she's interested in, but it is like, I think she lacks the sincerity. Do you know what I mean? She lacks the sincerity to make something that is sincerely about love.
That is so interesting. I feel there were moments in it when I felt it from Margot Robbie and I felt it from Jacob Elordi, but I never felt them together. Like, as you say, there's almost like they're acting in different movies or something.
Yeah.
And I do think like the performances around them were all very staid. Like, it was just all very somber or something. Like, no one's having fun in this film.
Yeah, it wasn't like I loved Alison Oliver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's brilliant.
Like, she was great, and I thought that was like, oh, this feels like the thing that's nailing the movie that Emerald wants to make, or what they dreamed up originally of. Like, there's a kind of an over-the-top rococo girlishness to it, and like, it's this girl who's clearly obsessed with romance, and she's very sheltered, and then she just like, falls into this thing with this like intense man, and then she like, by the end of it, she's on her knees. But clearly loving it, kind of thing. I was like, this is the movie. Yeah. This is the interesting movie. And her performance, I felt like, was pitched right in the middle of Margot and Jacob. Of like, you could believe her as a person, but also she was great crack to watch.
She was so fun. I love to watch her. And it's so funny to think that her and Jacob Elordi were siblings in Saltburn. But I just feel like Saltburn did all this nastiness and seediness, like, in a much better way. Like, I know a lot of people hated Saltburn, but like, I personally loved it in that year. It was one of my favourite movies of the year.
Yeah. I honestly, I haven't seen it, but I've seen so much of it online that I feel
Yeah.
like I have.
It's like basically a meme now. I think we should go to spoilers. What do you think?
Go for it, girl. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back for spoilers. Right.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
It's spoilers now for Wuthering Heights, the book and the movie. Caroline, as the person who knows the book much better here, what do you think are the key differences and do they matter?
Okay, so just to set up my stake in general, my stall in general about adaptations, my general rule is I don't really care. In terms of like I'm adapting my own novel right now for the screen, and there are whole things I'm throwing away, like entire plot lines I'm throwing away, because to me, making a TV show of a book is about showing an audience how I see the world and how I see a subject, more than it is about faithfully rendering plot lines to a book that is available to read for anyone. And clearly that's how Emerald Fennell feels as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is interesting. And do you think of that if you were adapting someone else's book, you'd feel a bit more nervous about it?
No, because I was adapting a book a few years ago that ended up not getting made, but I got like fairly far in the development process, and there were like entire storylines I threw away, entire storylines I made up, and like I'm sure if that had gotten made, it would have been controversial, but I would put my hands up and be like, this is this book in quotes. Sorry, guys. Like, I actually do agree with her like ethos and her philosophy completely. That said, I do think the stuff she chose to discard and keep did not serve a functioning good film. Right. Because, okay, so the kind of fascinating thing about Wuthering Heights, the one thing that makes it a classic novel, there's much that's wrong with it, there's much that's like quite boring, but is that it exists within two framing devices. So you have at the beginning this man called Lockwood who has bought this new house, and he like goes up to Wuthering Heights, and he meets Nellie there, and he's like, why is everyone so fucked up around here? That Heathcliff guy seems fucked up, all these people over here seem a bit fucked up, and she's like, let me tell you a story. It's the story of Cathy and Heathcliff, and it's about her being a maid in this house, and how like Cathy was willful and crazy, and then Heathcliff came along and they were willful and crazy together, and they would spend all this time out in the moors, and nobody knows what they did out there, but they would come back weird. Do you know what I mean? Like
come back covered in eggs.
Come back covered in eggs and slime. And like, so I think it is totally like a valid picture into the book of her being like, oh, like the thing that was happening out in the moors was sadomasochism.
Yeah.
And I actually would have loved to have seen far more of that.
Yeah, it was all very vanilla, the stuff between them.
Come on, like the sex was so by the book, like it was just standard movie sex with like Charlie XCX behind it. But the thing is that Nellie is telling the story to this new guy Lockwood like 30 years later, and at that point Cathy's baby who survives.
Yeah, I was confused. I mean, the book, I'm watching this, I'm like, even I remember she had a baby.
She had a baby. There's also and then also Heathcliff has a baby with Isabella. Those, from what I recall, those kids grow up, they have their own shit going on, and like Heathcliff is torturing them, and the whole thing is that like, and it's actually interesting that you have at one point Isabella, she's quoting verbatim the plot of Romeo and Juliet, and her eyes are just filled with wonder and whatever. The whole point of Wuthering Heights, to a certain extent, is that like you take a Romeo and Juliet story, but you patchwork around it the generational trauma that comes from two people who love selfishly. Do you know what I mean? So you have like Heathcliff abusing people, as I mentioned in the intro, like killing a dog at one point, like torturing people because this inappropriate love has warped everything around them, and it's actually a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, and that does come across in the movie, in fairness, the weird shit that their relationship makes him do.
I guess I just didn't find it convincing in the film, and I think by losing that framing device, she could have kept it in and cut all the I love you and made a far more interesting film. And like I just felt like the characterization of Cathy, like it's a very interesting character, because the whole thing is that she looks great, but inside she's a little sicko. And the parts where the parts where they focused on Kathy looks great but she's a sicko, I thought were great. And then the rest of the time she had these like crises of conscience that just came from nowhere.
Yeah.
Where she's like, we must stop. Why? Because
Yeah, because you don't know what it's like to be married, and then they're just like at it again. I feel
Yeah.
like the film nearly wanted us to make us think that they were like star-crossed lovers, but I
did not care.
I didn't care for it. I'm very emotionless. Like at the end when Kathy died, like I felt nothing. I wish we had got a grave digging scene set in the future, because that's one of the things that has always stuck with me about the book.
And stuck with everyone, right? Yeah.
Whereas I know we get him lying on her corpse and stuff, but it didn't feel like. And it was funny when we came out, because like in the loo, people are like, "Oh, what do you think?" Which I always love after like listening in. And people were like, one person was like, "I love it," but loads of people were just like, "Nah, it was fine." I feel like that's kind of the vibe.
Yeah, the vibe is, after all that controversy and all that clickbait, at the end of the day, it's a 2.5, perhaps 3-star film. Yeah.
It's just
Generous 3-star.
And like I'm still happy that it's event cinema, but I feel like I almost feel like, you know what you're saying about Margot Robbie knows how to get like people into the cinemas, but it nearly felt like that marketing strategy that worked so well for Barbie, like they were trying to just roll it out again. Like you've the big pop star soundtrack, which by the way I really like the soundtrack, but wasn't like particularly enamored with. They're using that same thing again, and there's been this kind of pretense of weird marketing thing where Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi, like she's talking about how hot he is, but like it's kind of weird.
How in love they are, and how she would follow him around the set like a lonely child. Is like, girl, your husband's an exec.
Yeah, and like she's his boss, and like if a man was saying all that about a woman, like I'd have been like, this is inappropriate. Like, I don't know why they did all that, and I wonder if part of the reason they did all that is because their chemistry in the film isn't actually very electric.
I think what they were doing was trying to just change the conversation from the controversy around casting Heathcliff as a white man.
Oh, you think?
I think that's what it was. I think that I think definitely Lucky Chap and Emerald Fennell, the reason they work so well together as a creative partnership is like they're kind of living this, well, all publicity is good publicity, but clearly they reached a crisis point where they were like, yeah, we gotta change the conversation, and the conversation change became they're in love, maybe an affair, maybe.
And like it worked on that Glenn Powell Sydney Sweeney movie where they like fully faked your relationship, but it doesn't work on this one because you're like, but her husband was there the whole time. Like I don't believe it. I do have to say on his performance, Jacob Elordi, I do think he's great.
I think it's good. Yeah.
Have you seen Frankenstein?
No.
So we only watched it 2 weeks ago, very late to watching it, just with the Oscar nomination and everything.
Yeah.
He is unreal. He's been Oscar nominated for it. I would say he's brilliant.
Oh, wow.
And lucky for him, they both have the same Yorkshire accent.
Oh.
Did you notice how good his accent was here? And it's probably because he was doing it for 2 films. Her actress was like Sydney meets London. His was like pretty Yorkshire, I thought. I'm no expert.
I'm no expert either in Yorkshire accents, but he sounded convincingly Yorkshire to me.
I watched a lot of Emmerdale in my youth. I did think he sounded great. And did you recognise the young Heathcliff boy?
No.
So he's the boy from Adolescence.
Oh, good for him.
I did not know he was in this. Well, I think it was him. If I'm wrong, I'll write it in the show notes.
He's Mank, isn't he? He's from Warrington, I believe. Because I know this because my friend's from Warrington, and prior to him, she was the most famous person from Warrington, so she's seething.
Oh God! And he's gone off and won an Emmy. He's so good in Adolescence. So I was really pleased to see him. The young Catherine. They either poor girlie, they put a wig on her or dyed her hair because it looked very not naturally
wiggy.
Blonde. Yeah,
wiggy. Do you know what? I quite like the kid stuff.
I like the kid stuff too, and I could have done with a bit more of it, maybe, because we basically get like one scene of them kind of as kids in a situation where Martin Clunes is like beating him up, right?
Yes.
And like you feel their bond, and he gets beaten instead of her. But then that's kind of the only scene.
That's kind of the only scene. Yeah. And the bit where they're like under the rain and like, oh, you can see a little bit of blue or whatever.
Yeah.
Is like, it was a sweet scene, but I was like, this scene actually does nothing about the characters of this, whatever. Because that kind of like, if you were to see that scene in isolation, you would think that's a scene about, well, one person's an optimist and one person's a pessimist, and like they drag each other through. That's not what their relationship is.
No, yeah.
It felt like it was almost a scene written for another film that was pulled in. You know, she needs a co-writer. Emerald will do it. Like
you should have done it. Was there isn't there a brother character in the book who's just gone?
There was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was.
And they could have done with the brother as an antagonist, because the dad, I mean, aside from that scene,
He was quite inert as a
yeah,
antagonist.
he's just kind of like, oh, that's Martin Clunes playing a blinder, by the way. The only person
Playing a blinder.
to commit to bad teeth, and this is what I always complain about in period stuff.
Yeah.
Margot Robbie's like full mouth of veneers.
Full veneers, yeah.
Like, you have to put some dirt on those teeth.
I know.
Yeah.
She does look like she's just like spent an afternoon at the Charlotte Tilbury stand in Brett Thomas, doesn't she? Like,
And like, she looks amazing, and I love her as an
Yeah,
actor, but
no.
like, it just
just
doesn't work.
No,
as she's playing a
I love her as
teenager.
an actress as well. I've loved her
Yeah.
in many things. This wasn't it for her.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a very good performance,
Yeah.
and I think she knows. Like.
I think as well, it's like, if your husband's like literally on set, like, how are you supposed to, like, the sex scenes are so tame, but like I don't begrudge her. Like, I'm married, I've kids. If my husband was there, I would not be doing sex scenes. But this is why a different actress should have played Kathy.
Yeah, I think they would have
Yeah.
been much better off casting maybe people in their late teens or early 20s,
Yeah.
age them down for the kid scenes and then age them up as they go on. At one point, the thing is, they're not casting Kathy as 17, because at one point
No.
Martin Clunes says you're knocking on spinsterhood anyway, so presumably she's playing like
She aged them
25
up,
or
yeah.
something.
Like,
yeah.
she said she put them into their 20s, which, like, obviously they couldn't play, like, neither of them can play 17-year-olds. He
Yeah.
can't either. He looked younger at the end, though, when he shaved the beard.
He did look younger at the end, I thought that.
Yeah. And like, at the end, I think they were trying to make us care. And like, by the way, I'll cry at anything, right? Give me
Oh,
like
yeah.
a toilet paper ad, I'll
Oh,
cry.
totally. Same girl, same.
But the end was just, they're trying to
Yeah.
make us feel it more by cutting back to them as kids, but because we never
So
got into them as
manipulative.
kids.
Yeah.
Like, we only got like 5 minutes of them as kids. So I wasn't like sitting around crying
Yeah.
when they kept doing that little juxtaposition at the end.
I kept thinking Alison Oliver would have been a really good Kathy.
I was thinking it.
Yeah,
And I wonder,
because she has kind of a baby face. You could age her down. You could put her hair in
Yeah.
plaits and make her be 17, and you could like, I don't know,
She could
judge
get
her up
away
and
with
make her
it.
be 25 then.
like, we're not biased because she's from Cork, we're both from Cork. But I wonder if she was originally cast and then she got bumped for Margot, because it felt like she
No.
should have been Kathy the whole time.
It did feel that way.
Yeah, like she looks like we'd imagine Kathy as well.
Yeah, totally. No, it felt like, no, I think they're just kind of, they're an artistic gang now, right? Like
Yeah.
they clearly, Emerald and Margot like working together. Clearly all these people like working together, and they have a taste level that's matching
Yeah.
each other's, but not us.
And I do want to say, like, I don't know if I mentioned it already, but Emerald Fennell has done a lot of TV work, including she was like exec producer on season 2 of Fleabag, right? Or not Fleabag, Killing Eve.
Killing Eve,
which
yeah.
I absolutely love, right?
Yeah.
So I do want to say that Emerald Fennell has like an amazing career ahead of her, and like, I'm only saying this because it's a female director and everyone's so fucking horrible to them.
Yeah.
She's going to make like 20 more films.
Oh, yeah.
So like,
Oh,
we
yeah,
like some of them, we won't like
the
some of
amount-
them.
The returns she's gotten on this, like
Yeah.
she's the most bankable fucking director
Yeah.
in Hollywood, probably.
And
you
like,
know,
I can't wait to see what she does next.
like
I just,
even if you think about like One Battle After Another, which was like one of the great artistic achievements of,
Yeah.
of the last year, I think, in cinema. Like I fucking loved
Yeah, I
that
loved
movie.
it.
Apparently, it did incredibly poorly at the box office.
Oh,
Like
interesting.
she'll get a movie made quicker than PTA will.
yeah,
You know,
that is so funny. And like, the marketing strategy does work. Like, it was everywhere.
yeah. They're
I-
just fucking smart.
Yeah.
That doesn't make the movie good, but they are fucking
No.
smart.
And I think I prefer her original work. Like, I'd love to see her writing her own movie again, because I found her original work much more interesting than this film, which I just didn't find that interesting, frankly.
yeah.
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 Like, Promising Young Woman, I think the year it came out was like my number 1 movie of the year. I just love that film so
Yeah.
much. Again, I know people have issues with it, but like, people do over criticize female directors. It's a fact. You should
It's a
go off and read a
fact.
book that actually a mutual friend of ours wrote, Helen O'Hara, called Women versus Hollywood, where she basically tracks over like 80 years all the times that female directors have risen only to be knocked down by the public in general.
Yeah.
And it's a really worthy read. And I do think all the discourse around Emerald Fennell, particularly around her social status, because it is not her fault she's posh, has been insane.
No, I agree. And I think this is something I said at the top as well, that like, it's very, I mean, obviously the Nepo conversation and the privilege conversation has been huge in the arts over the last 20 years. And the instincts are good because like there are less working class people in the arts than ever. Like the playing field needs to be leveled drastically.
Yeah.
However, the vast majority of these conversations are centered on women.
Yeah.
Like I like to recall, like this is, you know, very much in our sphere, podcasting. But I remember when my dear friend Dolly Alderton was still doing her podcast, The High Low, a few years ago. And I remember she was attacked all the time. Her and Pandora Sykes attacked constantly for their privilege, that they were out of touch, that they were this or whatever. And like at the end of the day, there were a couple of like, I don't know, middle class girls who went to nice schools but like didn't come from like royalty or anything. Meanwhile, like Adam Buxton and Louis Theroux went to like
men get away with it.
Are the children of like real celebrities, went to like Westminster boarding schools or whatever, like have the most unbelievable privilege, and they're regarded as like the stalwarts of their industry and these thought leaders, and no one ever gives a fuck about where they come from.
It's just every criticism gets levied at women. Like
it's such a fucking misogynist conversation.
Yeah.
I do think, obviously, the privilege conversation is real, but I think when it gets leveled at individual women, it's just misogyny with a new hat on.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if people really want to support female filmmakers, and like I do really believe a lot of the stuff I've seen online, again, not all of it, some of it's really legitimate, but a lot of the criticism I've seen online is like clickbait, and I say to those people, okay, do you go to film festivals? Because film festivals are constantly trying to get more female directors in. They're constantly trying to bring in lower income artists by giving funding, by giving platform. So for example, Cork International Film Festival has like a really strong mandate to bring female directors in, and they work tirelessly to like search the globe for films made by female directors. So if people want to support female directors, go to film festivals, get involved. Like, don't just sit on the internet and complain about that Emerald Fennel is posh.
Like, it's just not the move you think it is going after individual creators. Like, there are things that you can do to uplift people, but at the end of the day, people would rather be jealous and complain.
Make your own movie, you know, get an iPhone and you can make your own movie too if you want to be a filmmaker. One of the final things I want to say is thank you so much for coming on, Caroline.
It's my pleasure. I love this podcast. I love that we got to do it like classic style.
Yeah, walking around
style. Walking around Dublin.
It was going to be very wet, and I was going to put what we do is our mobile recording studio where we put an umbrella over the mic.
Oh my God. We got a beautiful evening.
Yeah, we're walking along the canal.
Let's turn right here and you can walk me home.
Amazing. Perfect day. I'm sorry I didn't buy you a drink though. And tell everyone where they can find your podcast.
Oh, well, my podcast is dormant at the moment, but it's called Sentimental Garbage, and we have a vast archive that you can find all sorts on.
Yeah, I love you. So she does mini-series, and the last series was all Friends Through a Lens. So examining like
Friends Through a Lens, like that's a thing anyone's ever heard
It was so cool. So like the lens of friends' weddings, for example. So a whole episode would be about the weddings of friends. It was just such a cool idea and really good fun, and I really thought it was great. A lot of our listeners will know you from Sentimental in the City when you recapped Sex in the City during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And if you go over to it, we'll link your podcast in the show notes for anyone who hasn't heard. And best of luck as you continue to make your TV adaptation.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming to visit me while I make my TV adaptation.
My pleasure. And thanks everyone for listening. If you want to head over to Patreon, we're reviewing a ton of TV at the moment. We've just reviewed America's Next Top Model. Heated Rivalry. Have you seen it, Caroline?
I have not. I'm sorry. I've seen basically nothing.
And I know people will say to you, you have to watch it, and you'll be like rolling your eyes, but it is worth it. We've reviewed that. And we have reviewed His and Hers, the new Netflix show. And we have just watched the Spice World movie, which I made Dave watch again.
Oh, I love that movie.
So that was really good fun.
I strongly feel that Spice World movie is like the Hard Day's Night of the 90s. Do you know what I mean?
It really is.
It's just such a caper. I love it. It's so funny. It's great.
It's so camp and weird, and we both had a fun time watching it, though Dave did grumble the whole way. And every month our patrons vote on what retro movie we're going to watch. This month it's a one-day movie, and we've got 3 kind of in running at the moment. One being Magnolia, one being Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I think one being Phone Booth. So we've got some good contenders there. So head over to patreon.com/The Cinema Mile, and thanks for listening. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you, Kathy.
So kiss me, and let us both be damned.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.